All right, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to another live stream here. How we all doing? I know that you can't see anything right now, but let me know if you can hear me okay. We're just doing a couple of quick pre-stream checks here. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Good to see you all tuning in here. We've got a good one today. Obviously, a couple of things going on in the markets recently and today. A couple of things going on Twitter recently and today as well. Shout out to Michael. Let me make sure that we're good on my side. Just let me know if you guys can hear me for now. And we'll get this thing started here in just a second. Alright, you should be able to see the charts now. So, pessimists sound smart, opportunists make money. Let's go. You got it, Leroy. What's up? We can hear loud and clear. Welcome to the live stream. Adam, what's going on? Shout out to Michael saying, hit the likes before we start, bros. Bitcoin hit an all-time high. Smash them up. Did Bitcoin hit an all-time high? Really? Oh, shit. Yeah, it did. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, Bitcoin hit an all-time high, huh? Marginally, but today looks like it's going to be another all-time high day for BTC. Here's the S&P 500. It had a little bit of a stumble. I think this was pretty much like starting from like, I think it was the Epstein drama or something with the administration. But you know, it's found its footing again, you know, pretty quickly within more or less just a week, right? So really good stuff there for sure. Shout out to everyone tuning in. Smash up the likes as you're coming in here. We're going to be covering a lot of price action today, talking about where we think the market could be going and all that good stuff. If you are excited for this one, then definitely smash them up. Dave, what is the soothsayer? What does that mean? What does the soothsayer Sammy the $1 million man say we are going now? Thank you. Yeah, we'll be diving into all those ideas, especially, you know, where I think we're going to be going in just a minute here. Just want to make sure everything is good. Well, yeah, welcome guys. It's a good one today. Bitcoin's dominance is down to 64.86, so we'll be talking about that today. We'll be talking about some of the altcoins, you know, where some opportunities could start to kind of surface here, which is going to be, you know, obviously quite interesting. There's so much to talk about over there as well. So I just want to wait for a couple more people to tune in. If you haven't done so already, do me a favor if you can, smash up those likes. That really does help out, kind of push the live stream out. I don't want to do like full-fledged analysis to 80. I'd rather we can pump this up just a little bit more, so I don't have to keep on repeating stuff when people do tune in. Just as we are kicking this off, let me know how you feel about the markets in the live chat. Let's start up a little bit of a discussion here about what we're thinking about the markets in this live chat today, ladies and gents. Do you feel bullish? Do you feel bearish? You can write one word. You can write a thesis. I like thesis style comments. You know, I want to dive deep with you guys. Shout out to William from, I'm sorry, Bill from Cleveland. Yeah. Bitcoin's sitting at $111,000 right now. And yes, indeed, as one of our commenters did point out, we are sitting at we did set an all-time high today. We're not sitting at the all-time high right now, but we did set one. Only marginally higher than our previous all-time high. Honestly, like, you can barely even tell that it's a new all-time high. Obviously, this is going to depend on the exchange that you're on as well. Yeah, this was a 0.1% higher all-time high. It went up by about $160. So, you know, not too much of an all-time high at all. But I think, you know, for sure, one of the key things we've got going for us right now is just the simple fact that, you know, we were kind of consolidating before this even happened. So, you know, that puts the market in a really strong place. So, the first thing to really tackle here is just the fact that Bitcoin leading up, because it's a very small all-time high that we set just now, the fact that, you know, leading up to this, we had, you know, number one, a pullback, and then number two, you know, some sideways consolidation here. That's a really big deal, right? If we kind of look at this as far as just market structure goes, we have a couple of distinct kind of patterns here. The first one is obviously we moved up quite well. Inside of that, we had a couple of, you know, kind of consolidation patterns, which are a little bit smaller. Then we had a larger kind of pullback here. We continued to move up, but then we went sideways. That's kind of what we just concluded today. We just concluded that today. All of this pump that you're seeing today, it all happened in the last few hours. And now we're essentially, you know, in price zones that we've never actually been in before. So that's definitely really, really cool. I think what's even better is, you know, if we roll this chart back to, you know, what happened last time we hit this same price level, it was a pretty relentless run up, right? You know, which is fine. It's good. I mean, it's Bitcoin, and Bitcoin can definitely support that, but it's not as good as, you know, pulling back. I mean, this was a 50% move inside of a month and a half. So it really didn't take too long for that to happen. As you are tuning in, ladies and gents, do me a favor and smash up those likes so we can keep this live stream running for a long time and get into some really, really exciting stuff. If you do appreciate the content here, if you don't want to, that's obviously totally fine as well. 50% up within a month and a half is obviously pretty fast, especially for Bitcoin in this era, right? Like, this era of BTC price action is much more restrictive and slow than, you know, anything that we're used to if we've been around for a couple of years now. And so, you know, I think it really makes a lot of sense that, you know, kind of in light of that, Bitcoin was able to, was not able to continue and actually had to, you know, pull back a little bit before, you know, then subsequently carrying on higher. So, you know, if we play this forward a little bit, all of a sudden, you know, now we're at the same price level. If I, bear with here, I think we're having technical issues again. 1 second here. Yep. This is going to take a minute to fix, so I guess it's just you and I in the live chat right now for the next couple of minutes until I can sort out these technical issues here. What have we got in the live chat? We had a giant cup and handle, and now we're in a smaller one. Yeah, actually, you know what? That does ring a bell. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Bear with here while I can get things running again. It's only right, of course, that the first time I have a technical issue in a long time is also while we're live, but hopefully we're wrapping that up here right now. I think we should be ready to get back to it. Let me know if you guys can see the charts all fine. I think this is all fine again now, so good stuff there. Thanks for smashing up those likes, ladies and gents. What's happening with Ethereum? Why isn't it back up to 4K? I mean, you know, that's a Bitcoin dominance question. It's a pretty complex question at that. We'll get to that a little bit later on in this live stream. Vikrant is saying that it looks like it's going to range between 110 to 112 for some time and then fizzle down to get back in Q4. I really don't think that's going to happen. We'll talk about that in a bit, though. Michael saying, I love your analysis, Sammy. Thank you. You're very, very welcome, sir. You're very, very welcome. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think, you know, as far as kind of market structure goes, you know, if we take a look at what has actually happened on this chart, you know, now that we've actually managed to have a bit of a pullback here, you know, that and Bitcoin is at the same price level now, we're in a different situation, right? Like, if we tried to set all-time highs from this rally, you know, we're kind of weak as far as how far this can go, because, you know, you need pullbacks in order to kind of build a sustainable trend. And I think Bitcoin in this market cycle really is living by those principles more than ever before. And so to me, it's no surprise at all that, you know, it took essentially, I mean, what was this, like this had to be like a month, right? More than a month. This took nearly, you know, a month and a half basically for Bitcoin to come back up to the same price level again. But obviously in between, you know, it had this nice big pullback. It stretched all the way from, you know, 112 all the way down to 98. It really shook a lot of people out. I mean, there's not very many people that, you know, kept their cool on this drop as well. And since then, you know, it's just been a super boring, you know, 2-week, you know, sideways essentially range, but now a little bit of a kind of pump here. So that's definitely how you get market breakouts. This is also a chart pattern that we were watching here on this YouTube channel for quite some time. You know, this is a chart pattern that you know, we had already seen within this trend, mind you. You know, within this market cycle, we've already been here once before. And of course, we were just pointing out that, you know, we're probably doing something like this again. Okay, so here it is. We're just doing it on a smaller time frame, and that seems to be proven quite true as well, which I think is absolutely fantastic. John says we're about to print 15k candles on the daily. He thinks we're about to start pumping by $15,000 in a day, which is definitely possible. I wouldn't say it's super likely, but it's definitely in the realms of possibility. John also says that the least amount... Is that the same John? I think so. The least amount of Bitcoin, OTC, and on exchanges ever was 600k 3 months ago, and now it's 155. Hey, that's interesting. I haven't seen any of that data, but, you know, I do definitely think that... you know, that's going to make sense given, I think, a lot of the kind of fundamental factors that have been at play here in this market for a little bit. If we do bring it back to Bitcoin here, though, and take a look at this falling wedge, I think it's absolutely super clear why we're here and how this happened. I think the only bad thing was that it took so long to finally start materializing, but we're materializing, so that's good. And like I said at the very beginning of this live stream here, we have seen the S&P 500 start to recover from its stumble, okay? It's been a little bit turbulent here since, you know, kind of the 3rd of July, 2nd of July. I think a lot of that was political, you know, and even though none of those political issues have resolved, in fact, they seem... Pardon me, they seem to continue to get worse. You know, the markets don't care. And I think that makes a lot of sense because the markets have obviously been, you know, they've been suppressed for a long time, right? These markets have been suppressed for a long time. Every time, you know, the markets should have gone up, something kind of stopped them, be it an external factor or, you know, big traders selling heavy at resistance levels, you know, whatever it may be, maybe a combination, maybe neither of those factors. But the bottom line is that, you know, they kind of been poised to move up for a while. We can see it on the chart as well, right? This is the S&P 500, and as the S&P 500, you know, rallies up to that all-time high level, which is of course demonstrated roughly by this yellow line, you know, we start to see a really, you know, small, insignificant, you know, kind of pullback or consolidation happening with the S&P 500. It lasts about 20 days. It really doesn't, you know, mean particularly much for the market, but it's something and it's there. What's up, Max? Shout out to Max in the live chat. Yo, shout out to all of you guys smashing up those likes. Let's get this thing above 100 likes. I want to see how many viewers we can get in here for this live stream. Really do appreciate all the love and support so far, ladies and gents. Thank you all very much. Shout out to Badger in the live chat. What's going on? Lloyd Griffiths. We've got the S&P 500 here, you know, showing us that, you know, some of this pressure was kind of bound to blow up, and obviously that's already started to happen. So no surprise that Bitcoin is here. You know, if anything, Bitcoin's a little bit late to the party, but, you know, that's totally fine as well. What's up, Gavin? What's up, Sheila? Hit the likes, people. Thank you, Sammy. You're very welcome. What's going on? You know, if we take a look at, you know, just where Bitcoin is right now, it's a pretty clear, you know, to me, it's a pretty clear breakout. We also got a back test. Admittedly, this was a shallow breakout with a shallow back test. So, you know, ideally you want to see something a little bit more substantial like this, but, you know, we've already had it, so I'm not holding my breath for that. What's up, Darren from Idaho? What's going on? You know, we've already had it, so I'm not really, you know, going to be holding my breath for that at this stage, but you know, it still definitely looks great. And I think, you know, like I said, the main point that I'm making here is, you know, we've already been here. It's just that now we've kind of reset, you know, in quite a substantial way, which I think is obviously super important. If we go ahead and take a look at this fear and greed index right here, you know, I just want to see what we were looking at last time we got to this price level. I haven't actually seen this yet, but we're looking at the 22nd of May, so that puts us at about over here. And on the 23rd, 22nd of May, we had a reading of 78. Today, we're at the same price level, and we have a reading of 66. So we're clearly resetting. You know, we're clearly, you know, kind of bringing things to a more sensible place before the market potentially continues to go up again. So that is absolutely fantastic. I think it's really good news. But, you know, if in terms of other things like, you know, just the RSI, which is obviously still, you know, at least somewhat important, you know, if we kind of take a look at what the RSI was telling us, you know, the last time that the price got up to this level, we were pretty inflated. I mean, you know, the RSI last time we got to the same price level was at 80. This time it's at 60. So, you know, this is, you know, clearly in kind of extreme greed territory or extremely overbought, as, you the RSI, would put it. And there's a whole discussion about why it's not a particularly useful indicator. And we're actually re-recording the course where we're going to be teaching all about that stuff in the updated course. If you guys are interested in that, just make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss out on those updates when it does come out. But RSI is not what it's cooked up to be, but it does tell us a story here, which is that we obviously moved up pretty aggressively. This time it hasn't been aggressive, yet we're at the same price level. So one of these are going to be more sustainable than the other. And obviously, any move that we start from a position of being neutral is typically going to have more space to run than a move that we kind of start when we're already, kind of inflated and excited. So from a couple of different metrics there, we can really start to measure with clear objective numbers that, yes, we're at the same price level again, but no, we're not responding in the same way. No, we actually got here this time with a much more kind of sustainable path that we can continue to move forward here, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Badger is saying, likes give Bitcoin holders Sammy's knowledge. Be kind. Thank you very much. Didn't fully understand what you said there, but I think you said basically hit up the like, so I do appreciate that. Nice, respectful person says, crashing now, bear market. Yeah, that's about as bipolar as our crypto markets have been. So, I'm not surprised that we're starting to get some sentiment like that. Here's the 5-minute time frame. Definitely seeing, a little bit of a pullback right here. Obviously, no big deal whatsoever. We'll bring up the Coinbase chart here so we can watch this like degenerates on the side while we talk like adults on the left-hand side of the screen here, continuing to have some more sober analysis with what's going on. Like I said, I think, it means everything, the fact that Bitcoin was able to, come back to this price level after, kind of doing some much more sustainable, corrections in this. I just want you to zoom in. Okay, yeah, well, we've got the zoomed in chart right here. And obviously, as far as where this thing could drop down to, it's hard to say it can drop by a couple percent in the next few minutes. And, that shouldn't be too surprising for us in this market. But I think for sure overall, things are looking good. We're targeting, breaking those all-time highs. Yes, we're having a little bit of a pullback right now, but it's in terms of like which context did this? Are we setting a double top? Well, I don't really think so. We've already kind of, if you want to make the double top argument, we've already started doing that, and we're back up to this range again, right? So triple tops, in my experience, are exceedingly unlikely. And so, I think that we've kind of negated, we've kind of, what's the word? I think negated is the word. We've negated that risk by quite a bit. We're probably just angled higher now, I think, which is, obviously pretty cool. Now, before we talk more about Bitcoin, especially on a macro scale, because there's so much more that we can say about where Bitcoin's going to be going, and we will get to that as we probably will save that for when we hit 100 likes, because that's super achievable. I think if we can't even hit 100 likes, then I don't need to live stream anymore. This channel's clearly not favored by the algorithm anymore. But we'll cover that in a little bit. For now, what I want to do is switch tones a little bit and focus with you guys on altcoins, because obviously this is where things get a little bit more tradable. Bitcoin obviously super tradable, but I do think that altcoins are giving us some more interesting opportunities. And as far as Bitcoin's dominance goes, it's the same thing, right? Like we're basically pulling 5 steps forward and 4 steps back, 5 steps forward, and we're potentially initiating the 4 steps back right now. It doesn't have to be that dramatic on the way down. I still think that overall we're obviously poised for Bitcoin's dominance to go up quite aggressively, quite a bit more. I still think 70% is very possible because of everything that we've seen, and we'll get to those ideas a little bit later on in the live stream if you guys are interested in that. But I do think that, Bitcoin's dominance coming back down right now is going to be an indication of alts, having a little bit of sunshine during this moment right now. They've definitely been suppressed for quite a while, right? I mean, this uptrend for Bitcoin's dominance restarted, back in, roughly the middle of May, and it kind of ended at the end of June. That's still, a month and a half of Bitcoin's dominance trending up. So, it totally makes sense now that we're going to be having a couple of weeks of altcoins gaining a bit of strength. But, you know, the pattern has been, you know, incredibly clear, you know, for the last few years, which is that any altcoin gains are going to be short-lived. Now, obviously, we're reaching a point where that could change and flip on its head, but I don't really think that that's coming soon. You know, there's a lot to be said about that, and like I said, that's kind of a separate discussion, but I don't really, you know, have a concern that that's going to be happening, you know, right now. But, you know, that does, you know, this drop has actually resulted in some nice moves for altcoins. Here's Ethereum, which, you know, had a really nice kind of sideways range. We then lost the range and came back down to 2.1k support. And now we've reclaimed everything, and we've actually got a ton of support beneath our feet right now, which is absolutely fantastic. That is really, really good news. And, you know, I want to give you a quick note on this. This is the kind of like actionable stuff that I think is actually really interesting as a trader. And this is exactly the kind of update that you guys are getting on 𝗙𝗢𝗟. So those of you that haven't signed up to 𝗙𝗙𝗟 yet, you're not getting some of those updates, which are really, really valuable. They're only being posted there. We're actually sharing some really interesting things that are, you know, they're quite time sensitive. The charts move quickly, and we're posting that straight there for those of you that are signed up on 𝗙𝗙𝗟, which is absolutely sick. So as usual, you know, obviously make sure that you are abiding by your local laws and regulations in your country. But you know, 𝗙𝗙𝗟 is a phenomenal platform. You're getting the same benefits that you're used to as far as, you know, proof of one-to-one reserves and all that good stuff. You get huge deposit bonuses when you start trading on 𝗙𝗙𝗟 as well, which is absolutely sick. And obviously, you know, Bybit remains... I can't... Like, the things that Bybit have been doing recently is crazy. They've got traditional finance now. You can trade Tesla stock. You can trade the S&P 500. You can trade gold. You can trade, I think, even some Forex. They've gone kind of crazy with Bybit. They are also, hopefully, I've been talking to them, asking them to implement a couple of new features. I don't actually know how much I can say, so I'm going to leave it there. But there's a really cool feature that I'm asking them to implement, which they're paying attention to, and I think that they might end up doing that soon. So yeah, that's really, really exciting. Again, check that out if you are, of course, allowed to in your country. Really, really cool. They're also rolling out the EU platform, which is really, really exciting, getting those, you know, regulation licenses there. Obviously, as we know that the EU is pretty much only good at one thing, which is, of course, regulation. But at least Bybit is able to kind of deal with that and still bring you guys a phenomenal product there. So check those links out if you're interested. See what's going on in the live chat. We're getting close to that 100 like mark. Smash them up if you haven't done so already. Max says, I sound like I have insider info, but then I just point at the chart. That's how it works, right? Like, ultimately, when you're a good analyst, it's gonna look a little bit creepy. Like, how do you know so much stuff like that? But you know, to me, you know, and I know this because I've trained so many other analysts over the years. Being a good analyst is a very methodical process. You know, it's not something that you can necessarily wake up and do great, but it is something that you can teach to anybody, I feel, and anybody can be good at it. A lot of people, they're going to have, you know, bullshit in their head that says that I can't do this because XYZ, and that's totally cool. You know, but I think for the most part, this is, you know, very, very achievable for anybody that, you know, believes in themselves a little bit, because it's not too bad at all. Badger says 2,500 Bitcoins sold within the last hour. This move has forced. Hey, you know, that's really interesting if that's true. Badger, if you've got a source, I would love to see that. You know, the thing is that if we're seeing a shitload of Bitcoin getting sold right now, and Bitcoin is still, you know, within a stone's throw distance of its all-time high, then I think we're in a pretty good place. You know what I mean? Like, if you're getting a lot of selling pressure and the price is literally hanging on to its all-time high, then that's actually probably going to be an indication that things are actually, you know, pretty healthy in this market. So I think that's really, really cool. Shout out to John saying to people to smash the likes. Philip, what do you think we could expect from Solana? Let's take a look at Solana right here. Obviously, Solana for the most part is going to be, you know, reliant on Bitcoin, and, you know, its Bitcoin chart is the first thing I want to look at. It's not a good chart. It's dropped down by quite a bit. It's probably a good chart to buy. It looks like a really good chart to buy. You know, for the long term, right? Like, I mean, you know, especially the fact that it hasn't lost any of these levels and come down to, you know, this much lower support zone at about 6,900 Satoshis, 7,000 Satoshis. You know, I think that makes Solana, you know, quite interesting against Bitcoin for the long term. But, you know, against the dollar, you know, it's just kind of in the same range that it's been stuck in, you know, honestly, for quite an obscene amount of time at this stage. It's really been, you know, a very, very long time. I don't know where there it is. Just wanted to make sure that I had my my tool brush here. my favorite list here. But if we put on the kind of parallel channel, we can start to appreciate a little bit of what Solana's been doing, which is fuck all, basically. It's not been doing anything. And I think that, you know, for the most part, it's going to continue to look like that until we get a real alt season with some substance. Solana, of course, is one of the coins that could just wake up and rally really hard. So, you know, holders always have that going for them. But, you know, these rallies have been short-lived, and I think that's going to continue to be the case until, like I said, we see, you know, some more significant changes happening with BTC.D here. Let's take a look at what else we got on the live chat. Dude is a major XRP bull. Thanks for the XRP stuff, dude. I mean, I'm an XRP bull as far as I think that, you know, this coin is poised to double or triple in this market cycle. I really think that that's possible. But obviously, I believe that XRP is a total shit coin and a waste of time and a joke. But, you know, there's money to be made in it right now. And I'm not going to turn my back on money just because I disagree with the coin. Probably would be nice because it means that we're operating from, you know, places of principles. But you know what? This is just a good chart. This is a really, really good chart. You know, we've got some really interesting, you know, levels dotted around this chart. Here's one right here that we're kind of close to, which also prints a potential kind of, you know, reversal for another support, you know, kind of entry, which I think is absolutely sick. So really, really exciting over there as well for XRP. You know, in terms of potentially getting a chance to rise a little bit higher from where it's at right now. You know, and obviously if it does start taking off, then, you know, $3 is actually, you know, pretty reasonably within reach for XRP the way that I'm seeing things right here. So that's really exciting too. We'll talk about that as well in a little bit. Shout out to AL. What's going on, bro? Welcome back to the live stream. Good to see familiar names in the live stream, of course. Also, silver and gold are going crazy. Yeah, they probably are moving. Let's take a look at gold real quick. I don't really look at silver too much, but actually gold's just kind of holding on. I mean, it's still gone crazy for sure, but this is quite a consolidation pattern, right? I mean, this is really, really good for gold, I think. You know, probably gold holders quite happy with this. Obviously, gold has been moving pretty aggressively, pretty quickly for a while now, but you know, we can't expect that to go on forever. So in between, we're entering really nice, healthy consolidation periods. I mean, what more can you ask for if you hold a little bit of gold? You're probably going to be quite happy with that. Eric says he's ready to buy more real estate with these altcoin gains. That is sick. Shout out to Eric making big moves in the real world as well. You know I respect the shit out of that, ladies and gents. I love it when I see people getting into these markets and then taking their money out of the market and securing their future, securing their lives. Because, yeah, crypto's cool. Yeah, we can make a lot of money off it. But ultimately, if you really do want to feel safe, if you want the gains to, you know, be enjoyed by yourself, your family, you are going to have to take the money out of crypto eventually. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that because they treat crypto like a casino. And obviously that is a very, very bad place to be. Mikey says he lost his ass at the casino. Should have just bought Doge instead. Okay, I don't know. I think if anybody has a gambling problem, then, you know, just don't even be in crypto. That's kind of my take. Rick says the last cycle we saw Ethereum starting to lead the market toward the end of the bull run. I just saw it do the same by more than an hour. Interesting. I agree with you. I think that's going to happen again. Francis says last time I watched you was 8 months ago. Great to feel your energy. Hey, well, welcome back. It's been a little while. Glad you're here. Thank you. Appreciate the comment. Yeah, I mean, it's a good day, right? Bitcoin's setting an all-time high. We got a pretty good market structure right now. You know, can't complain, right? It's a pretty good place that Bitcoin's at right now. You know, just kind of slowing down as it's dropping here. This could be a sign that things could reverse just a little bit here and then continue to trend on a little bit higher. Let's talk about Bitcoin zoomed out a little bit, you know, and where it could go from here. We've already discussed this to some extent in some of the recent videos and live streams, but I want to cover this again. What's up, Neon Daddy? Welcome to the live stream. You know, we've got obviously a flagpole that we can kind of draw like this. And, you know, one of the things I like to do is just kind of draw that from the bottom of our, you know, kind of continuation pattern to give us a speculative target of, again, of course, around kind of 130 to 140. I think that's a pretty reasonable target. You know, I think at this stage, a lot of people are going to struggle to believe these things. They're going to struggle to kind of entertain these price ideas, which is fine. But, you know, the facts are that, you know, we hit this price range back in December of 2024. And, you know, we are now, you know, 200 days or 7 months forward from there. So, you know, you might have high expectations for what the market needs to do, but no matter who you are, if you're grounded in reality and if you've been watching Bitcoin for a few years, you're probably going to be okay with the idea of 7 months of consolidation to continue to set all-time highs. I think 7 months is more than enough. It's obviously, you know, the exact amount of time more or less that Bitcoin spent consolidating in its previous massive range. You know, it's misleading because I actually think that this range and this range are the same as far as, you know, what they did for the market. Obviously, in terms of how they look, they're a little bit different. There, you know, there was a little bit more going on. You could certainly say that this was a little bit more volatile, what we had here, but it's still consolidation. It's still ultimately the market, you know, taking a break, cooling off a little bit before continuing on in the upward direction. So, you know, to me, you know, 7 months is plenty. It's very much due for that pullback. It's been due for that pullback for quite some time, and I really don't think that that's going to be changing, given, you know, how the market has gotten up to this place so far. Here we are on the minute time frame on the right hand side here. If Bitcoin loses this low, then we're probably coming down to the low 110s, but if we can actually defend this low, then we might see this thing picking back up in the next few minutes right here in this live stream, which would obviously be pretty cool. So that's going to be interesting to take a look at. Yeah, so let's see what else we've got here in the live chat. Hopefully we can get a daily close above 111. That would be pretty good. I think, you know, a lot of people like the idea of daily closes at good levels. I like it too, don't get me wrong. I've been talking about that stuff for a long time on this channel, but I'm not really too fussed either about daily closes. I think for the most part right now, it's broader market structure that's more important to me. And, you know, this broader structure is just unequivocally so healthy. I mean, you know, it's really in a very, very good place. The fact that we, you know, like I said, we've had 7 months to cool off. You know, we've had, you know, a good amount of pullbacks in between, heavy pullbacks, 32% right here. You know, another pullback here for about 12%. It's fine. It's good, right? I mean, you know, it's definitely giving bears a chance to seize control of the markets. I think more importantly than that, it's giving, you know, retail opportunities to sell their bags to patient investors and to institutional players, right? So, you know, that's obviously something that we're expecting is that as these bigger guys come in, they're obviously not going to make retail and the little guy like you and I rich. They're going to be making themselves rich. And the way that happens is that people like you and I end up panic selling on local bottoms and then rebuying on local or macro tops, right? That's more or less how the markets have moved for quite some time, and I have no reason to believe that that's changing anytime soon over here. So really, really cool stuff here. So close to 100 likes, by the way. Smash them up, ladies and gents, if you are finding this live stream useful so far. Only a few more left to go. But yeah, daily close would definitely be nice. Money Changers says, the thesis is the world needs a truly decentralized stablecoin. A man has built a platform upon which we're building one, nicknamed PDAI. Hey, that looks like a spam comment. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm not really in the altcoin space too much these days, but yeah, I don't know, and I wouldn't even say that the world needs a truly decentralized stablecoin. I mean, I guess we do need a truly decentralized stablecoin, but that's called Bitcoin. It is a stablecoin these days. At least it certainly feels like it. And it doesn't even lose people that much money anymore, you know? I mean, I think 32% is obviously steep, but you know, considering where it was, it's really not that bad anymore. Brooks is asking, can we go from 122 to 150? Obviously, I think that's definitely very, very possible. John says, okay, clarified. I'm not loving XRP by principles, but living my 25-cent average. Don't understand some of these comments today. I don't know if you guys are like writing properly or if it's me that's not reading it properly. But yeah, no, I think you know, obviously pretty healthy setup for Bitcoin here. Now look, if things start going south for Bitcoin, then you know we're essentially now, I think we've got some headroom above this range, so we can definitely come back to retest this range and, you know, capture a little bit of support and then continue on our way up. I'm still probably looking at Bitcoin finding support off these levels rather than kind of entering, more of a bear market. So that's going to be something that we'll continue to watch out for on this YouTube channel as well. I think that if we do kind of plunge below this level, then, we're more or less looking at coming back into the mid-90s. This is a really good level of support. I really think that it could help Bitcoin, and keep Bitcoin, bolstered up a little bit higher. But the problem, and this is a really big problem, is that, we are looking at a very real failed breakout if we do kind of return into this range with any kind of substantial price move. So that would be really bad for bulls, because it would indicate that they're just not able to hold on to gains. It would indicate that, again, we're just setting a slightly higher all-time high. This all-time high was literally only $150 higher than the previous one, which is abysmal. It's really, really bad. So, with that in mind, if we do come back down, I think it would really, really put bears back in control, at least for the short or mid-term. But, that hasn't happened yet, and I think that there's some really good support in between. Like I said, just the top of this range probably, is going to be one of the better, kind of zones of support that Bitcoin can enjoy if it does end up kind of seeing a bit more of a pullback here. So that's something that we'll definitely, keep an eye on here in this market. John is saying crypto is the real world now. I'm working with traditional finance, bringing them into crypto. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on right now as well. I think crypto is always going to be seen as a kind of speculative, childish, market. Yeah, at least for a while. I think it depends, right? I think as like my generation, younger generations kind of come up, as my generation kind of starts stepping into money a little bit. I'm Gen Z, by the way, Gen Z, as Americans will say it. Obviously we will take, tech a little bit more seriously, and we do. We take tech a lot more seriously than, the big guys that are still in traditional finance, obviously, later on in life. And that's going to continue to shift, and I think that's going to make us take crypto more seriously and stuff like that. But, we're still, potentially even decades away from that, because even if you are, young, you should still hopefully understand that Bitcoin is quite risky, right? Crypto is still quite risky as an asset class. Speaking of asset classes, let's take a look at Nvidia. It hit a $4 trillion valuation. I don't know if this hasn't updated yet or if it's pulled back since then, but $4 trillion valuation. It's obviously, far above now Apple, Microsoft. Well, Microsoft is quite close by. This is, incredibly clear that it's happening purely because of AI and how important and valuable being the kind of, providers and developers of superintelligence is going to be moving forward. We're going to be talking about that a lot more on this YouTube channel. And I actually have another one that I'll tell you guys about in a little bit, where I really want to, because we're not going to do too much crypto stuff. I think moving forward, this channel will stay the same, don't worry. But I think with my own channel, we're going to be talking about some of these things that I think are much more kind of culturally and globally relevant. It's no, I'm just following the money, you know what I mean? It's no surprise here, I think, whatsoever that Nvidia has been able to, reach such an incredible valuation here. And you could definitely say that it's bubble pop territory, and that would make sense considering some of the crazy stuff we've seen. But I don't think that's true. I think that actually we're looking at pretty real stuff here. Meta has just poached I think 4 or 8 super important high-ranking people out of Silicon Valley companies into Meta. That's out of Apple, that's out of OpenAI, that's out of a couple others. So they're really headhunting. They've got $100 million sign-on bonuses that they're offering in cash, ladies and gents. I might be mistaken on that. Maybe it's stock options, but either way, it's crazy. Where I think definitely a lot of that stuff is moving. And again, this is what makes Bybit really interesting, because you could trade this shit on Bybit now, just with your Bitcoin, which is really, really cool. First time that we've ever really been able to do that on a serious platform, right? On a big platform. A few platforms have offered this over the years, but nobody ever as big as Bybit, which I think is just, again, absolutely phenomenal. It's just so important to check that out if you are interested in kind of trading those stuff, because, again, I think that's where I think a lot of the really, really interesting gains are are going to be. Obviously, 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪, great for seeing some of our exclusive chart updates that we've been posting there as well. Again, always if you're allowed to by your country's local laws and regulations. But definitely something that we're going to be keeping an eye out for right here. We've covered the kind of downsides for BTC. We've seen Bitcoin slide down a little bit here as well, actually, just here on the minute time frame. We are now down to 110K.7, $110,700. So that's definitely a little bit of a pullback right there that we've seen for Bitcoin now. But again, you know, completely unsubstantial in my opinion, you know, just really not an important thing at all to be looking at right now. I can see this thing drop down to, you know, 107, and I really wouldn't mind. It would turn into a bit of a failed breakout on the daily, but you know, I just don't think it's a problem, because ultimately what we have right now, which I think is much more important than any kind of short-term speculation, what we have right now is really solid market structure for this thing to continue to move up. And I really think that that counts for a lot more than you know, what happens on any given 4-hour or 1-day candle or anything like that. So and especially, of course, by extension, the candles that are on smaller time frames. But altcoins, for the most part, you know, they look like they're just waiting. I think some of them are in really interesting positions. Obviously, hype continues to be quite, you know, driven quite well by you know, groups of traders, liquidity providers, and so on. It's obviously holding on quite well right now. So, you know, there are a couple of coins that are more interesting than others. Here's WIF, you know, which is, you know, still sitting at a floor of sorts. You know, it hasn't really taken off yet. Probably, you know, has a good chance of doing so if altcoins really do start to take off during this market right here. So that's going to be something to look at. Like I said, XRP moving up, you know, into some more interesting. What's important about these price zones for coins like XRP is that as they do get a little bit higher, that atmosphere is going to get thinner, right? Like, we're going to have less and less resistance on offer for these coins as they get higher, and that's going to make it a lot easier for any momentum to be exploited and then magnified and then multiplied. So that's going to be something that we're going to keep an eye out for. Obviously, like I said, some potentially really interesting setups on these charts as well that we'll be keeping you updated on with 𝗙𝗟𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪, with that link down below. But, you know, obviously still super dependent on Bitcoin's dominance. And, of course, you know, some of the other bigger altcoins are going to be leading to show us where they might go. Here's Ethereum, like I said, just on the edge of doing something interesting. It's such a messy chart for Ethereum. This is the problem, right? Like, there's so many levels now that, to be honest, I don't even take Ethereum analysts seriously. I haven't taken them seriously for a while because, like, what the hell are you analyzing? You know what I mean? Like, it's just... you know, like every $100 there's an interesting, you know, level. It just makes it really hard to analyze and in my opinion, meaningless. I've found a lot of peace in ignoring Ethereum and actually focusing on BTC. So I don't know, do with that whatever you will, but you know, it's looking pretty good, right? I mean, ultimately, if Ethereum can get above this level, and especially if you get that nice back test, that is it. That's probably going to be one of the last times that we see these kind of price levels, at least for Ethereum. So that is definitely interesting, and we will be continuing to talk about that as that develops. For those of you that are subscribed to the YouTube channel, shout out to you guys. Thanks for smashing up those likes as well. I do think that, you know, with Ethereum, with where it's at right now, you know, if it is able to flip some of these levels and break out of some of these resistance levels, then it will probably be difficult for Ethereum to return back below those levels for some time, just given how deep some of these, you know, corrections have been, right? I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, but we're literally looking at kind of 2,800 all the way down to 1,350. That's a 50% drop. It happened inside of 2 months, and it was after we had already suffered a 30% drop to get there. So, you know, really, really steep pullbacks here. You know, if you do manage to pull back like this and recover and then get above the neckline of these kind of resistance levels, you know, in situations like this, the chance of kind of returning back below is overwhelmingly low in my experience. It can happen. It's happened before. It'll happen again. But I just don't think that the probability is particularly high. I think that we are looking at, you know, a more kind of, you know, bright, you know, atmosphere moving forward for this market here. Let's see what we've got in the comments. Silver, the antidote, is saying that a third, one out of three. I see this recent move as a powerful one, wiping out a lot of the shorts. It really helped push to the 112K range, but it's under fire with equal profit taking. Risk is very high now. I mean, yeah, you're right. You've got some of the right takes there, I think, from the way I see it as well. But ultimately, I just wouldn't read into it too much. I wouldn't read into it too much. Yeah, you're right. You know, we hit an all-time high and there's a little bit of profit taking going on. But, you know, if this profit taking is heavy and we're still sustaining ourselves at 110K, then, you know, it could be a matter of hours until, you know, we break 112 with some substance. You know, obviously, I think if we were going to see a bigger kind of pullback, we probably would have initiated it by now. But so far, this is literally, let's just measure it. It sounds like it's like a 1 point something percent pullback. So, yeah, 1.4%, you know, I mean, it's something, but it's not enough to make me worried at all. You know, I definitely think that it's actually super healthy. You know, like I said, especially if there is, you know, aggressive profit taking going on, which I don't really think we have cause for. You know, I think it's been clear for a while, especially with the S&P 500 leading, that Bitcoin is going to get above its all-time high and that it's going to clear that all-time high with some margin. It's probably going to get above it by, you know, a nice couple of percentage points at minimum. I think 120, you know, super doable even by the end of this week or the end of next week. You know, so maybe an even more substantial, you know, break of the all-time high than what we're used to. You know, and I think, like I said, you know, the biggest reason that I can feel confident in these ideas is just the fact that, you know, the S&P has already done it. You know, the S&P 500 has already done it. So, you know, why not Bitcoin? I don't think that Bitcoin is uniquely weak in any way compared to these stocks right now. I mean, the same arguments that have always existed continue to exist, but there's nothing short term really to tell us that Bitcoin should be you know, held back right now. So, you know, any profit taking we're seeing, I would imagine it's going to be quite short lived. And you know, you can tell that I've been, you know, somewhat confident in some of those things that I've been saying about that, you know, with this market right here. So definitely interesting and definitely something that I think we can, you know, kind of continue to watch out for. I'm probably going to be rounding this one off here, though, ladies and gents. If you have any final questions, let me know in the live chat. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap this one up around now. Really hope you have enjoyed this one. If you have, you know what to do. Smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff if you want to get into our exclusive one-to-one program, which is absolutely sick. We've had incredible results out of it. Then reach out following this this link right here in the description, and a member of the team, I cannot highlight properly, and a member of the team will get back to you ASAP to give you some information about that. It's very serious. It's expensive. You know, I don't want you reaching out if you're not prepared for a pretty significant turnaround in your journey. But you know, if that sounds like something that you are interested in, then definitely hit us up and we can give you some information on that. Brooks is saying, thank you, bro. Don't forget to sell the top. I almost never sell the top, so I don't think that's going to happen now. Are we going to hit 107K first? You know, we very well might. It's not far away, right? It's not far away at all. We are getting a nice little recovery right now. I'll have to see how this goes. But, you know, 107 is pretty close. You know, so we can definitely hit that. But, you know, I think we'll just have to wait. Ultimately, I don't really think it makes a particularly big difference, so I'm not too worried at all. Thank you very much for the beautiful comment. And with that, ladies and gents, I think we'll be rounding this one off here. Obviously, we'll be live again if anything big happens, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you got notifications switched on both for this channel and for the YouTube app itself, because otherwise it won't work. Or, of course, you can just get into our free Telegram channel, and we'll give you notifications there when things are kind of heating up and we're going live and stuff like that. All right, ladies and gents, it's been a good one. Cheers. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you all in the next one.